Hello, everyone that is watching the webinar. I can see that there are already a few people watching us, so welcome. Welcome to another webinar of the initiative Stay InfraSpeak. Okay, every Thursday we host a talk for hotel and facility managers with topics related to operations, management, tech, with relevant industry professionals sharing their experiences as we have today. So if you want to keep updated on our agenda, please follow the link that I left on the comment section. Feel free to ask any questions you might have, okay? My name is Liliana. I'm a marketing executive at InfraSpeak, and I will be guiding the conversation today, even though today in a slightly different format that we usually host. Today we will be talking a little bit about the new challenges for hotel revenue management, okay? And as I told you, please feel free to share your insights or make any questions, okay? We will try to answer them. And with me, I have Larry, that you already know, our country manager for the UK at InfraSpeak. Hello, Larry.
Hello, Liliana.
And I also have Jane Pendlebury, CEO at HOSPA. Hello, Jane. Thank you for joining us. Today is a very special webinar because Jane is actually partnering with us in promoting this webinar, which is great. So HOSPA was in charge of inviting Michael to join us. So that's great. Thank you for that. And actually, Larry and Jane will be bringing up some questions to our guests, which are Michael, as I told you, the managing director of Heyward Hospitality Solutions, actually, and Olga, Sommer, revenue manager, a very experienced one, actually, that can share a lot of insights with us. So actually, I will start to give the word to Jane. Jane, do you want to say why you decided to join us and what do you expect for today?
Yes, thank you very much, Liliana, and thank you for inviting us to join with you. So for those of you that don't know, I'm Jane Pendlebury, I'm the CEO of HOSPA, and Michael sits on our board as well. So you've got very senior people here from HOSPA, which is great. HOSPA is the Hospitality Professionals Association. We're based in the UK and mainly service the UK, although we do have a lot of international members as well. A typical member of HOSPA will be a hotelier, usually hotels, although we do go across the board, somebody involved in finance, revenue management, IT, marketing, anything commercial really, asset management. And during this time of COVID-19 crisis, what we're aiming to do is just offer as much support as we possibly can to the industry that we all love, we're seeing devastation all around us. And we're doing that through positive blogs. We've got a new page on our website, which is sharing any support that sponsors and any suppliers to the industry are doing specifically during this time. And also we're sharing good news stories. So where hotels are doing amazing things or restaurants are doing amazing things, we're sharing those as well. So that's why we wanted to be part of this, and we're very proud to be working with InfraSpeak and Liliana and Larry as well. So thank you very much for inviting us to be part of it.
Thank you, Jane. That's great to hear. And I must tell you that you're doing a great job. I love your crisis support page. So by the way, and now I will ask Michael and Olga to introduce themselves as well, so we can understand a little bit of your path. So maybe we can start with the ladies. Olga, should we go?
Thank you very much. Name is Olga Sommer. I'm Katie's Revenue Manager of the Year. I've been working in revenue field for over 10 years. Main experience managing revenue for 5-star luxury boutique hotels, but also working in the large international hotel chains like Hilton, Accor, Novotel. So it's a kind of experience in everything that is in between as well. So hopefully I'll bring experience and some knowledge into this discussion.
I'm sure you do, Olga, no doubt about it.
Thanks.
And now last but not least, Michael, can you introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely. Good afternoon. So I work for myself now, but I have previously worked as a Director of Revenue Management in IHG for UK and Ireland and with Accor, previous to that in the Pacific region. And I was lucky enough to come across to the UK 1 month before the global financial crisis hit. So I know about living through revenue management in rather challenging times. This is extraordinarily challenging, but each one of the things that we seem to face is a bit different. So I've seen gas crisis in Melbourne, I've seen water crisis in Auckland, SARS, and a range of different things. So yeah, it's a big one, it's a different one, and no two of these situations are the same. So there's a lot to think about and a lot to talk about.
That's what we'll do. We have a lot to go through. So Larry, most of people already know you. You have been in all our webinars, so great. You can jump up and bring up the topics.
Okay, so welcome then to another Stay Infra Speak. And what we're going to do today is run through a number of different questions with our guests. And I'm going to start off by talking about the current situation and the impact of COVID-19 on hotels and, sadly, hotel closure within the sector. So would anybody like to comment?
Launching an easy topic.
Yeah, nice and straightforward.
I think the first thing for us to be very clear about is, with all the figures we see, they tend to look at quite a high level. But with all the people I talk to, it's about more immediate issues for them in their business. Here in the UK, we can talk about the differences between London and the provinces, but lumping the whole provinces together is just completely messed up, really. Talking to someone with a hotel in Edinburgh, where their big time to make money is through the peak summer season. Their whole focus is about the summer season. I've been chatting to friends who have hotels on the Adriatic coast. There are some of them that are talking about not even opening for this summer season. There's no point to open with all of those costs and then lose money. Having conversations with people who own small boutique luxury pubs in the North Wales countryside, they don't know if they will still have a business when this comes out the other end. And then you talk to people with big hotels where they've got the money behind them, they know they're going to come out of this. It's just, how do you come out of it? So I know it may sound like dodging the question, but when you listen to the broad stuff from STR or whoever else, you need to kind of filter that for what it means for your business, both on the risk side, but also on the opportunity side. That's what revenue managers love to play with, that balance of risk and opportunity. And there's a lot of negativity out there, but we need to be changing gear right now to be thinking forward more into those risks and opportunities, I think. What do you think, Olga?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it came as with the whole range of challenges really for the industry. Managing from, I would kind of divide the whole challenges into two groups, if I may, kind of quite simplistically. Managing fixed costs, and that includes partial or full closure or a closure of hotels and the whole groups of hotels. Managing payroll. I know a number of hotels have gone through redundancies just before the support scheme has been announced by the government, which is very unfortunate. And it had, of course, significantly impacted a number of people. Managing then a furlough scheme as well itself, renegotiation, then leases and any kind of big contracts that hotels have, obviously to reduce those fixed costs. And of course, looking for that government support as well. So that's, I would put into one kind of group of challenges, and another one is kind of communication and managing the business side and the team as well. So that would be concessions, rebooking new business, looking for the new business, looking for the markets, which markets will come back. So basically looking for and how to manage your teams as well, and then looking for that all-important exit strategy, because Michael, you're absolutely right. It's about how to change gear right now and how to use this time most effectively to come back from this challenge, from kind of least losses, I suppose.
And do you think hotels... I'm sorry, Larry.
That's okay, you go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say, with the reopening plan, I think the hotels will have to look at their market segments very carefully, because that might have just been turned completely on its head. And I suspect, and I think it's been reported as well, that there'll be a lot more staycations, there'll be a lot more domestic business, within the UK or within whichever territory you're working in. and that could mean that people are no longer relying on the international business, obviously, that they were used to, or the meetings and events business, all of that. So it's not just a reopening plan from just the physical reopening and all the difficulties associated with that, but a totally new potential business market.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was chatting to this friend of mine with the pub in North Wales, and she was saying their little local community is not keen to have people coming in from Manchester or Liverpool or wherever else. They're really quite concerned about that. And I think in all of these considerations, for us as revenue managers, we tend to focus very much from the customer into our business. That's a lot of what we think about. But we're people as well, and we've got a real engagement with our staff and our teams. So there's also that concern about our teams. We've heard in the press down on the southwest, Devon and Cornwall, there's a real concern about a flood of people going in there. What they're hearing in the news is London is high risk. But I think there will be plenty of people who have been stuck in their homes for ages and ages. And some of the young up and coming stars that I'm talking with from time to time in the industry were stuck in little central London flats. They came to London for the lifestyle. They never expected to be feeling like they're locked in. That's not what living in London is about for them. So I think those challenges of how do we respond, and for us as revenue managers, thinking about all these different things going on, you're absolutely right in everything I'm hearing. I think domestic will come back first and quickest. I think drive destinations. I don't think people will want to get on a train or a plane and go up to Edinburgh. I think the South Coast and the areas in and around will be very popular. But how do you manage that kind of demand? I'm really unsure. I'd be interested in Olga's thoughts on this, on whether people are going to be keen to come to London. Most of the event venues will be closed, the theatres and everything else. The sporting events won't be going on. People will be nervous about tubes. I think the countryside is a better bet for reopening than London, but I don't have the data to my fingertips. Olga's probably a better person to talk to on that.
A lot of valid points, absolutely. Jane, to answer your question, yes, everything market segmentation has been put upside down. And if in the past, let's say, airline crews were seen as a low market segment, right now they're kind of, anyone, well, quite a lot of hotels, I shouldn't say anyone, but a lot of hotels would consider as a good piece of business, because often we would be talking about multi-million kind of contract. And it means a lot, it's a great piece of business as a base to start from. So, but then we right now know that airline industry going through their own challenges as well. And in the past years, a lot of contracts or airlines already been located closer to the airports rather than staying in the heart of London, let's say. So yeah, a lot of segments we will be losing or changing, and will be drop in volumes from corporate segments. Staycations, yes, are the first to come back. Yes, there is uncertainty, and I think media plays a big part, and not just media, but also hotels have a big part to play in it. How we reassure customers and audience to kind of pass that message that hotels are still safe places to travel to, and it's down to hotels to manage that. And there's a number of tools and ways how we can do that. So yeah, there is, and I would treat it as an opening new hotel rather than, because it makes kind of a little bit more exciting. And in a way, you may think, okay, which are the segments I have right now? What may come back first? And you start from there. What will be a result of this in a year or two time may look completely different as a market segment, what you think right now. Hence, I'd kind of make a connection to the new opening, because that's what potentially will change as well.
I think a key thing for us as revenue managers, good revenue managers take all the things they're hearing and all the theories that are being thrown out there, and then sense check it against the data you're seeing for your hotel.
Yeah.
I can sit here and say, I think domestic will come back first. Just watch for it in your data. Good revenue managers are looking at pickup, they're looking at pace. That may mean a slowdown of cancellations before it actually means an acceleration of new business. They're looking at lead times, they're looking at all that kind of stuff, because your hotel it'll be different to the general assumptions. And yes, you're right, Jane, segmentation is part of that. But we need to really have our fingers on the pulse. There's great opportunities in this recovery for people who are not making unfounded assumptions. I know that's a double negative. People who are really living by the data rather than trying to get the data to prove what they think is right or their GM does or whatever. So it's a crucial time for us. We've got a really important role to play.
As ever, revenue managers have always got a very important role to play, and they've got to, as you say, if they are relying on the data rather than gut feeling, because at the moment it's only gut feeling, there is no data to go from. But we need, revenue managers need to have the support of senior management so that they are able to drive their strategy forward and to have faith. The role of the revenue manager has increased so massively in the past, I don't know, 10 years, maybe shorter than that, but it's become a much more respected role now, and hopefully that will continue and only increase. What do you think about sort of food and beverage outlets within hotels?
Breakfast buffets don't look so good anymore, do they? That's going to be a really tough one.
Well, there are kind of several aspects you can look at it. Potentially F&B outlets, yes, I know, well, I think it was Marriott who is bringing white glove service back. So yes, F&B will need to be relook at whether they need to change number of tables, reduce capacity, etc. So that will hit a bottom line. There are some opportunities, obviously, still to work with it or around it and manage business. It also will play a crucial part, and you're absolutely right, Jen. Right now, revenue managers, I think, more of leading a commercial role, and that F&B aspect also will be a very important element when you potentially discussing any new business you're considering. Even if we are talking about, I don't know, let's say airline, if there is no breakfast element, how it will affect your line profitability of the whole hotel. So examples like this. So it's, but yeah, there are some elements of how safe it will be to stay in a restaurant. But then businesses have a great potential to change their business model, having deliveries right now running alongside a restaurant as well. So yes, it's challenging, but there are some opportunities as well.
I think one of the pieces of good news for our hotel restaurants, and having worked with Accor and IHG here in the UK, quite a lot of our hotels have enormous restaurant space that used to only ever get well used when it was Sunday morning breakfast. You know, that golden hour where double occupancy in all your bedrooms all come down in an hour to have breakfast. They designed our restaurants big enough to be able to serve that. For all the rest of the dinner service and everything else, that means we can do social distancing, which a nice little cozy restaurant on the high street hasn't got a hope in doing. So perhaps I was on a call today where our Member of Parliament on the all-party group for hospitality, people were throwing things at him, and I was really concerned that it started to sound like a bit of a whinge session from hospitality. But a lot of the stuff that was being thrown at him was little restaurants can't function on 20 or 30% of their seats. It's just, you're better off actually not opening rather than doing that. I think for hotels, we have the opportunity to do things a bit differently. Now, if that means you need to place an order the night before, or you need to book a table so that we can manage the distancing, I think in hotels, we've got a fighting chance of actually making this work in our restaurant space. Bars are another conversation, and I think small, more intimate restaurants have a far bigger issue than we do with some of our big sort of machine restaurants. It's not a nice way of putting it, but I think you know what I mean, the production restaurants. So yeah, there's lots of good thought going into that. But cook to order is probably going to be very high on our guests' priorities, as well as the practicalities for us. I think Olga might be in the right market with the boutique stuff, I don't know.
Well, anyone right now who has a space, outdoor space, we probably will benefit, whether it's going to be terrace, courtyard, a roof terrace, whatever it is. You know, we're going into summer season. If there is a little bit of flexibility or restrictions are lifted, as long as there is something we can work around, I think hoteliers and quite creative minds, we will be able to work around it.
Yeah.
I know I'm originally from Estonia, and there is one restaurant in Estonia that is working on capacity 2 people at the time, staying for 2 hours. And it's fully booked because, you know, they're probably just breaking even, but, you know, even PR and marketing wise, it works. So I think as long as we're giving a little bit of flexibility, yeah, I do believe hotels have a little bit of a chance. But it will come down to managing that fixed cost as well.
And as somebody said to me the other day, that Sunday morning breakfast, Michael, picking up on your point, finally the hotels will be able to tell the guests what time to come, which is what they've been trying to do. So from that point of view, it will be good. So we all seen the general feeling, and again, we must rely on the data, but the gut feeling seems to be the staycation, but that will be the bulk of the initial business. What do you think a hotel, I know we don't want to go into any discussions on pricing because for various different reasons we don't want to touch on that, but what can one hotel do against another hotel to make it more appealing, perhaps? If all else is equal, you're going to a town that you don't really know, or a city that you don't know, or somewhere where you haven't stayed before. What can a hotel do to persuade the average guest to stay in their hotel rather than the one next door?
One of the things I think our industry has to do, which has started to be put in place in other countries, is to come up with a verifiable customer-facing way of communicating that you are now operating to higher levels of cleanliness. And I equate this with after 9/11, everything stopped as far as airline travel. Airports had to come up with a new level of security so the public would feel safe about traveling. I think initially, at least for the first 12 months, we need to take cleanliness and hygiene far more seriously. I've heard several people, whether it's Michael from which group? It'll come to me in a moment. So there are plenty of people who are putting all this effort into cleaning standards, but unless you can communicate it to your guests so they can make an informed choice, so they can choose the hotel that is now taking hygiene and cleanliness to a new level, rather than the one that's still in cost-cutting survival mode and doing 17-minute rooms with an outsourced housekeeping provider. You need your guests to be able to make an informed choice. And I think we as an industry need to come up with a way to do that. And I'm hearing lots of people talking standards. I'm not hearing anyone yet, although I'm keen to be part of it. I'm not yet hearing anyone saying, here's a customer-facing way to make an informed choice. Stay tuned. We'll work on it.
They're probably on their way. That solution is quite useful, I would say. Go ahead, Larry. I was just saying, probably working on that.
Well, just so you know, we are already working on it because we're working with some of our hotel customers, and we will imminently be announcing a solution in that area to help both the hoteliers and the customers so that they are aware of what's going on, not just from a cleaning point of view, but also things like social distancing or physical distancing, etc. Yeah. But watch this space on that one.
We'll keep you posted, I promise. Sorry.
If I may answer this, yes, cleanliness is a big topic, and communication is more important than spending, as Michael said, a number of hours on the matching those or ticking those boxes. I think there are ways we can communicate already now. Hotels have a number of channels they're communicating to their guests, and I'm talking about websites, our partners' websites, newsletters, social media. And yes, it's great to see so many already hotels working on different initiatives. And I think we'll need to come up to some sort of system. And that's, I suppose, what Michael is more referring to. But even right now, we can already start, passing that message that we are safe places to travel. And I think it's more for small messages right now. So even if hotels increase number of times they're, let's say, cleaning public places, that is important to communicate. Those are small examples, or if you have sanitizer in every single room and in all the public areas, that is important to communicate to the customers as well. And I think the second point is offering better value for money for the customers. So it's will be probably less about the price, but how relevant we are to the consumer. And there is a lot about emotional engagement as well, and offering value for money.
Olga, on that subject, I mean, one of the criticalities we see in this opportunity at the moment is the opportunity for the hotels to be investing, whether that's investing in the team, human capital management, investing in the property, or investing in new technologies. Where do you think people should be focusing?
All of the above.
That's a very reasonable answer.
No, I truly do think so. I think it was Singapore who came up at just the beginning of the COVID-19 kind of lockdown. They came up with government-led initiative that was about actually investing into training and retraining staff, because we knew that it will be a very long period of time. And right now it is about, you know, really 3 initiatives. It's about investing into your property, and I know a number of hotels actually working on rooms and hotels projects, small projects to upgrade their product, because you have, you know, hardly ever where you can take up rooms out of service for such a long period of time. So, but they're actually keeping it quite quiet about it. And of course, it is a competitive edge it will give them. Next one is, of course, training of the staff, retraining, and that will be incredibly important into the future. And it also keeps staff engaged as well, because I'm kind of concerned that we will lose a lot of staff through that period. And let's not forget Brexit is still there on discussion as well. And we should not really forget about that. And another one is technology, because yes, absolutely, there are so many ways we could be using technology, and I think it will be the next that we'll see accelerating in the hospitality industry. We've kind of been a little bit slow off the mark. We're catching up. Right now, there are so many ways we can introduce technology, even let's say expanding a number of ways you can check in or check out. If we're going virtual check-ins, you know, there are so many, you can literally talk for hours. I think it deserves a separate session, but technology is the driving right now. Yes.
Yeah, and the great thing about the government scheme on furloughing the staff at the moment, picking up on your training point, is that whilst you're furloughed, you're not allowed to do any work that will increase the profitability of your business, but you can train. And of course, you've got all the time in the world to think and plan and just mull things over. That's a luxury many of us don't have. So there are things that can be done during this time whilst on furlough. And yeah, some of the technology will have to change, but I suspect a lot of the suppliers will have to be flexible on revenues, because there isn't a lot of spare cash going around at the moment.
No, that's a very good point. I think one of the other things, and you've touched upon it there with the furloughed staff, is there are obviously some hotels who are not furloughed staff, who are actually still operating and doing new things. And I think we should give a shout out to those organisations. You were talking about some of them earlier on. I mean, can you tell me some of the things they're doing with staff from the NHS, etc., and provision of meals, maybe?
We have a whole list actually on our Positive News website, but there's a lot more examples where the hotels are just accommodating NHS workers, any key workers, military people, also homeless people, because we don't really, well, we never want homeless on the streets, but especially now. And I was really sad to read at the weekend that the homeless has increased just recently, and a lot of those people are hospitality workers who were not formally employed, either on 0 hours contracts or just casual employees. So a lot of hotels are taking in those people. I think local authorities are paying for homeless people, which is great. So there is a revenue stream there. And there are others accommodating NHS and key workers. A lot of them are also doing food distribution, either just locally. I know the Berkeley in London is doing a massive sort of drive-through for any of the key workers. The Strand Palace are producing, I think it was 600 meals a day for key workers as well. So there's lots of great initiatives out there. And there's also people doing takeaways and you know, for their local community. which is great as well. I mean, the country pubs, who obviously aren't able to operate in any other way, some of them are doing a thriving business in preparing meals for their local community, and then they're still getting revenues from that. Of course, people are picking them up, and it's a great excuse not to have to cook. So there are some fabulous examples of what hoteliers are doing. And whilst a lot of the phone calls we get into the HOSPA office are people suffering a lot and struggling with getting loans and whatever else is affecting them at the moment, I get just as many upbeat people who are just out there determined to come out the other side of this and doing whatever they can to ensure that happens.
I think it's great because it shows the resilience of the sector, and you know, the simple fact is it will come back. It's just going to take time. And leading on to that, from your point of view, Michael and Olga, what do you think are going to be the criticalities for ensuring guest safety when it does start to pick up, or the new normal becomes the normal?
Just to try and be a little bit concise, I mean, we've talked a lot about the cleaning and the new standards.
Yeah.
Obviously, the human interactions. Jane mentioned the F&B side. How do we run check-in? How do we manage our lobbies at busy times, whatever those now mean? I think the care of our staff is really, really important, and we can't make assumptions about what that means. We did a training session recently, a couple of us here, learning what it means to manage the cleaning of a room where a guest has been who may have been infected, because as we all know, you don't display the symptoms until well after, so you just don't know. Now, the government website says basically you should just do a normal clean and then do a disinfecting clean straight after that. So it's effectively detergent followed by disinfectant. But that's not the best practice. The best practice is to disinfect first to protect the staff, then to do the detergent, then to disinfect again. To come to the second part of my answer, what I've just been talking about is one of many examples that is showing a massive difference between the leaders who care about their staff and their guests and the ones who seem to only care about the bottom line. We all saw at the very beginning of this, when there was that hotel in Scotland that handed a letter to people and said, you're fired, and by the way, get out of your staff accommodation now. And the way the media just tore them apart, rightly so. I think the difference between those kind of hoteliers and the ones who genuinely care about their staff and aren't just being defensive of the bottom line, and by extension then care about their guests, I think there will be a huge difference over the next few weeks and months. And coming back to Olga's point, not all of our staff are going to want to come back or be able to come back, but the ones where they'll go out of their way to come back are the ones where they believe leadership cares and has their interests at heart as well as the guests.
People will definitely remember. There's no two ways about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Guys, I don't want to interrupt, but just to remember everyone that is watching right now that they can actually make comments or leave questions in the comment section. Okay, and we have actually a comment here that I want to share with you guys. It's from Edwards and Finn, and they say, first, this webinar is brilliant. I own and manage a specialist revenue management recruitment firm, and I'm incredibly passionate about the development of the revenue management community. So congrats, guys, because you are doing this. And then they raise a question for you guys, which is, now more than ever, we're looking to revenue management. Do you think going forward, it will be seen as a more well-established function and therefore will be given more of a platform in the industry? So whoever wants to answer, go ahead. Michael, Olga, feel free.
I can jump into that. Yes, as I said, I think initially already, revenue management role is more of a commercial role. I always say it's a right-hand side should be sitting next to general manager or the stakeholder, because this person has already, has access to all the data and has kind of seen all aspects of the business. And at the end of the day, we should be all sitting together, stakeholders, heads of departments right now. It's definitely, I think, will be more, it's a crucial part. It's about leadership, and it needs to be coming from one point. Communication is key as well, definitely. But I'm seeing, and as Jane mentioned earlier, we have seen this revenue accelerating and becoming more important right now. I think that will be even more crucial. It's a key part to get us back to the business. Absolutely.
I think building on Tom's point and building on Olga's answer, you've heard both Olga and myself talking about data, but also talking about people relationships.
Mm-hmm.
When Olga was talking about the air crew, you never get the data that tells you in advance what happens with crew business. If you've got a good relationship with your salesperson, so you can understand what's going on with the airline, and you have the right kind of relationship with your salesperson, there should be, the term I like is a bit of dynamic tension there. So they don't get away with the easiest deal to sign, but we don't just be so arrogant as to make it impossible for the contract to work. You need the two sides working well together. Coming back to, I think, the guts of the question there, people will see more and more how broad the perspective is of good revenue managers. And that magic word that Olga used, it's a commercial role. We're the ones that have to wrestle between sales, between marketing, between distribution, between operations, all those different bits and pieces. We have to be able to handle and manage all of those competing interests to get the right results, or the best results, the optimal results for the business. And that really has to come from the customer in. If you want to thrive as a revenue manager, that's the way you need to work. And I know Tom from Edwards and Finn, he loves that element of it. It's not just the numbers straight down the line. But from Jane's point of view, we've had plenty of conversations about financial controllers. The good ones understand the value of customer preference. So it's not unique to revenue managers, but I think we have a breadth of commercial focus and drive that no other role really shares with us.
So we still have some topics on hold, so I will get back to you, Larry. But we also have another question here from Julian that I would like for you to answer, which is, do you believe there is scope now to take on the OTAs and start to take back more control of inventory? If so, how might this be achieved?
It's the hottest topic right now.
Michael, would you like to start? In the room.
Okay. I'll start on the risk side, and I'll let Olga have the positive upside. The risk side, and this is the old bloke here talking, you go back to 9/11 and New York shut down. When New York reopened, the hotels in that city just got such an addiction to the OTAs. They were dumping rates. They became so dependent on OTA indirect business that I was working for AHG for some time, and we had to get really quite heavy-handed in dealing with markets where we believed the market, not just our hotels, but certainly all of our hotels, were in this situation where it felt like we'd sold out to the OTAs. So all of the big chains had this massive book direct drive, and that was really the heart of where it came from. So I want to bring us back to what Olga was saying before and what Jane's question was about. We need to take responsibility for a broad segment view on how we bring the business back. And we need to be prepared to invest when it's uncomfortable to do that, not just sell out to where it's convenient. And if you're dumping rates, I want to be your competitor, because when the market starts to come back, I'll never give that back to you. Once you've lost the rate and you've lost the ARI, when that demand begins to rise back again, I'm never going to let you back in. So that's the risk side. What's the upside, Olga?
Yeah, I agree with everything you say. I think we'll see right now different strategies. There will be difference what a large international hotel chains will take as their strategy, and I think they will go after, it will be MPI-led strategy. So I know already a number of hotel chains working on right now building promotions and tactical offers behind the scene to go live and ready when the restrictions are lifted. But I think individual hotels have more, and boutique properties have more opportunities probably to build their loyalty programs. Well, they have already more loyal guests to start with. It's a very different kind of clientele to start with. But I think boutique hotels will take more approach of trying to build more direct business. Another factor, we're looking at a very long recovery period, and I think that will be a factor itself, because at the end of the day, hotels need cash flow for hotels to survive. So yeah, unfortunately, I see a lot of hotels still working with OTAs. There is definitely opportunity. I was reading a very interesting article from hotelier general manager in a hotel in Italy, and he was saying that their reservations team never seen so much contact, or never had so much contact with guests, despite the fact they originally booked through online travel agency. They were calling hotels and writing hotels. So that gave opportunity to speak to the direct customer and start building that relationship. And they were happy to rebook for next year. So there are plenty of opportunities right now to gain some ground back. I'm seeing OTAs definitely feeling the pressure. They're definitely feeling the heat. They're trying already build relationships with revenue managers. Yesterday, we probably seen, I think it was the Hungarian government that filed for £6 million a fine to bookings.com for unfair business practices. So I'm not sure we'll see collective response. Maybe some more countries will follow the suit. It reminds me of when large hotel chains took on wholesalers and kind of went collectively about it. I'm not sure we'll see the same. But there is definitely opportunities to get some ground back from OTAs and get a power back to a certain extent.
I think the pragmatic answer is that hotels will desperately need business, and the OTAs can bring business to you. But I think the hotels that are too desperate will lose in their market, and that gap, the people who are able to hold their nerve a bit longer, they won't readily give that back to you. So it's just another one of those tough decisions.
Yeah.
The OTAs, as Olga said, they need business coming through their companies as well. So they're absolutely planning their strategies, and they want to get your inventory, and they want to sell it and make money out of it. So we really have some thought to give to that one on a business by business basis.
Yeah. Could I also mention to that cost of acquisition? It's becoming a really hot topic, because I don't think stakeholders or general managers often get a full understanding what they're getting out. If we're selling a room for $150, it doesn't mean you're getting $150. Once you take out the commission, VAT, discount that you're offering, additional discount for closed user group, and also if it's packaged together with the flight, there is additional discount that coming out of your rate. So when you kind of take it all out, it's not 150, it's a completely different figure. And I see right now hotels looking more into that, whether it's kind of, is it worth doing it almost? It's the same question as, we need to answer. Hotels need to have a better understanding, and that's why it goes back to commercial role. What does it cost us? Is it efficient? Is it cost effective?
Thank you so much, you both, for answering these questions. We don't have anything else right now. I'm hoping that it will pop up any minute, but I will let you, Jane and Larry, keep going, because I know that you still have some questions on your pocket.
Jane?
Right, I'm just trying to think what we haven't covered. There's so much, I don't know where to start. But the topic here today is revenue management. So, and I touched on, and we've all talked about how it's now a commercial role, and who ever heard of a commercial director in a hotel? If you wind the clock back, it just didn't exist, and it does now, and that's often a revenue management role. But they have to be especially strong now, don't they? I mean, it's always been a role that you have to be brave in, you have to stand your ground, and you have to be able to back up any statements that you make and hold your nerve. What other skills do you think will really come to the fore that maybe revenue managers haven't had to take full advantage of, if maybe hidden strengths that they may have? Do you think there are any, or do you not think it will change particularly?
I think the people skills, which we briefly touched on, are so much more important. There are revenue managers I know and I've worked with who are just numbers machines. They're amazing. Equally, there are some, often the ones that I have a bit of a challenge in working with, that are a bit smoke and mirrors, a bit kind of old school, gut feel. I think the ideal combination is to have strengths in both of those, and that's a rare combination. People who only go on their experience isn't going to help you coming out of this. We've never done it before. So that really established general manager you've got who has got 40 years experience in that market, it's not worth anything over the next few months. But the person who's so buried in their data that they're just reacting to things isn't going to have that broader view of what's going on. I think it's a real challenge for revenue managers now. How do you manage your time as a revenue manager? And just as I'm talking about the people skills and the data, all of that takes time and effort. So don't get lost in your numbers and don't get buried in webinars. Well, of course, this one is brilliant.
Not your words even, so.
So yeah, it goes back to that age-old debate of whether revenue management is a science or an art, and it's definitely both.
Not.
Yes.
Jane, if I may add, it will be influence and skills, because it is about communication and it's about managing upwards very often and convincing or passing the message in the right way that it will be received correctly. And we're dealing still with lots of general managers have more F&B or sales background, so that's an influencing their decision as well. So I would say influencing and communication skills are the key right now to make sure that all heads of departments and stakeholders are kind of buying into your idea as well.
Yes, that whole total revenue management, which has been a buzzword as well for some time. And
if I can add one more into that mix, it would be curiosity. I think good revenue managers have a real curiosity. So if one of the great source markets for you in the past has been US market or German market or something like that, think about how you can cultivate some contacts so that you will get a bit of a forward view on what's going to happen. I saw we've got a question that's come up in the chat about meetings and events. Whenever I hear people saying, oh, hotels, you know, poor us, we're going to be the last ones to open. No, we're not. The big event venues are going to be the last ones to open. So guys that I work with who've got hotels next to Wembley or these big venues, that's the last thing that's going to open, the place that you can put 50,000 people in all at once. Yeah, that's, who knows when that's going to be able to be allowed to happen. So when you talk meeting and events, there's the massive stuff, and then there's the middle stuff, and then there's the little stuff. I think the little stuff will come back much sooner, whether it's because the government allow it or whether it's because people feel confident about doing it. But I can't see any companies running any big 600-person annual conferences for their salespeople or their ownership groups or stakeholders for a long time. Probably not this year. I mean, I'm guessing. I don't have inside track on that. But what I would say is the good revenue managers are the ones who are going to say, how do I get the inside track on that? How do I work out who are the right people to be in touch with? And coming back to Olga's point, understand the relationships of that. Be prepared to invest in those relationships. Give of some of your insight and knowledge to the people who you're wanting to hear from. That's what I mean when I say cultivate relationships beyond the obvious ones.
Okay, so we have 3 more questions, okay, popping up. I want to ask Jane and Larry first if they have any question they want to make now, because otherwise we can cover these 3 questions since we are 10 minutes away from our time limit. So Larry, are you all done?
No, I think I'm fine. The guys have given quite extensive replies to everything I asked, so very happy.
Perfect.
I think the questions from the people that are listening in are the most valuable anyway. So let's
super important. I totally agree. Okay, so let's start with Andrew. So we have talked about this topic before, so we can do a quick overview basically. And it's, do the panel see any change from the M&A point of view? Who wants to go?
M&A as in mergers and acquisitions, or marketing and advertising, or?
I think it's M and no, I know. It's M and A, not, okay. Well, I can write it down. Well, for the people that I don't know, I'm actually
it's mergers and acquisitions. The people that I've been talking to who work,
but it's not mergers and acquisitions. No, okay. No. I just sent you to the chat. But well, no worries.
M&E, yeah, meetings and events.
Exactly, yeah. Meetings and events. I was trying to remember that.
That's all right.
Go ahead.
Olga, what are your thoughts on M&E?
M&E is a challenging one, because as you said, it will be about how safe companies will feel about arranging large events, conferences. I think we've also been quite successful. A lot of employees, and we've kind of proved that working from home works as well. So there will be less need, I think, from corporate point of view to arrange those meetings. And we will be looking at small events, especially the large events will be the last one to come back, as Michael already mentioned. Yes, there is a lot of sort of conversations about, will we need to rearrange our meetings and events days, potentially not accommodating 100 people, but 25. Visually, it doesn't work. Some hotels already tried, it doesn't work. So I think we'll need to see what government's kind of guidelines will be on that. Potentially, the M&E space can be rearranged to offer maybe smaller working stations and desks. I know of the examples of people going into the empty offices because they just didn't feel, they couldn't stay longer at home, working from home, so they chose to go to work from empty office. It is an element, so maybe it will be, some of the space can be reshaped and reused to different kind of working stations and desks, but it will go back to the hotels to see what are the options, what is suitable for each individual property. It will be the same as part of any strategy.
One of the things I would recommend is if you're in a business precinct, I can almost bet that the corporate offices that are near you have got tiny boardrooms that used to be booked up all the time. If you've got meeting rooms that could comfortably handle a training session, then a room that can do a training session can be a boardroom style with 2 meter distance. Yeah. So just having a large U shape for 6 or 8 people instead of having a small boardroom table. So we've got the space. If their meeting rooms no longer work for the meetings that they want to have face-to-face, that may be an opportunity for us to offer an all-day meeting, including social distancing, because we've got the space. We're certainly not going to be selling it to the big conferences and exhibitions. So we may as well take advantage of what we've got that they can't do. I've been fascinated talking to different people about their attitude to Zoom and Teams and everything else that everyone's using. There are some people that are absolutely sick of it and can't wait to have a face-to-face conversation, to have that time to just chat and gas bag. But there are other people who are perfectly happy, you know, brilliant, love it, being able to just, my commute is now from that room there to this room here. How good is that? I think the value of social interactions is really key, and plenty of people will be wanting to make more use of that. But do I think we'll go back to the balance we had before? No. I think there will be a lot more stuff that people are comfortably doing like this. So I think the balance has changed, but in all things there is opportunity.
True indeed. And Larry, it seems that Andrew has the same sense of humor as you, because he just said it's mechanical and electrical, and probably not, but well, we had the discussion before for everyone that is watching this webinar. We actually discussed this topic, and Larry did the same joke. So
well, what I'll do is I can respond to Andrew's question offline, because I know more about mechanical and electrical than I do about
for sure.
Meetings and events.
For sure.
Thank you.
We won't have time for a lot of questions more, but there is a very interesting one that I think we should answer from Roland. Okay. And he asks, how much of a challenge will the RMS systems be in recommending the wrong prices based on the data they are using being irrelevant for the new markets? Not an easy one.
Okay, then that's when we start looking into revenue managers to actually make not gut feel necessarily decisions, but almost have that follow your instinct. And for me, I would call it not even a gut instinct. You need to understand, you need to see from practice, try a different price point and see what the market is buying. It is the best way to find out what is the right price point. Yes, RMS right now will be giving probably wrong suggestions for quite a while. There are ways you can manage it, work with your account manager to manage to get the better answers. But I would say it probably will be sort of the effect of that will be for a very long time. But that's when the human element kind of steps in, and you should be able between the two. And also there are some other systems, you can see what competitors, what is overall price in the market, what competitors are selling, and so on and so forth. So there is, I think, enough information to make fairly calculated decision, but also use your kind of brains as well, not fully relying on the systems. But that should be a norm anyway, in my view.
I totally agree with Olga. I think the ideal is a combination of a good revenue manager and a good RMS. It's the combination of the human and the data. I'm just going to challenge that point of view of stating that RMSs are going to be coming up with crazy recommendations. RMSs are built to cope with things like ski resorts, like seaside resorts that only open for 4 months of the year or 5 months of the year. RMSs have had a lot of experience in dealing with a ramp up from zero into fully functioning, where demand is varying all the time on all sorts of dates with all sorts of segments for all sorts of reasons. So I'd be really careful about rejecting everything that your system is coming up with, because in a city like London, we've got hotels that haven't had their doors closed since the day they were built decades ago. And staff whose experiences in markets like that, they don't have the experience of ramping up from zero. These systems do. Hundreds of hotels in dozens of markets all across the world. Be careful about rejecting it and assuming it only knows what it's seen in your hotel. You need to have a balance of the two things going on. You need to critically evaluate your own assumptions as robustly as you're prepared to critically evaluate the system's recommendations. So, to a degree, trust the system and understand that it is coming from a really broad base. But to a degree, I would agree, don't just blindly accept it, of course. Well, you should never do that, now or ever. Okay. So there you go. There's my rant over.
We have a comment from Roland that popped up this question in specific, and he was saying that it's a chance for the revenue managers to come to the forefront. So it is indeed. Yep. It's a very good quote to actually start the ending of this webinar. And we also have a question from Fergus Fergus, I haven't forgot you. We don't have much time, but even though, please contact us through LinkedIn, because we will be very happy to answer all your questions. Okay, so we'll be available to keep this discussion for afterwards. And since we're eating the time limit, then I will do this closing. Thank you so much, Larry, for being with us once again. And thank you, Jane, for joining us as well. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Olga. If you have something to say in these last minutes, feel free. Otherwise, I'm going to thank everyone that is watching us as well and close this webinar. Please feel free.
Thank you very much for inviting. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great. All very fast, quick and fast. Okay, so it's time to put an end to it. As I said, we will be available to answer all your questions through our LinkedIn pages, okay? I left all the links in the comment section on this YouTube page, so feel free to reach out to us. Thank you all for taking the time to participate and to watch this webinar, and for being here with me as well. We'll be back next Thursday, so stay tuned on Stay InfraSpeak. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.